Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me and everyone else here again today for another live community chat about voiceover related, audiobook related things. Get into a topic or two or 10. If you're new here, welcome. We're offering warm hugs here. My name is Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator. And my show here on YouTube or my channel is dedicated to you guys that are just getting started in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you some things that I have learned throughout my own journey, some tips and tricks and techniques that I use every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together in these weekly conversations to talk about a lot of different things. We try to stay on topic most of the time. But the topic today, if you're not new here, then you know that every week we have a poll and we have, again, try to stick to one topic. But today's topic is ACX. I've gotten a lot of questions. And even like throughout the last few years, it just seems that I'm hearing the same sort of questions regarding ACX. One is, you never said that ACX was not available in my country. I'm sorry. ACX is not my company. ACX is an arm of Amazon. It is not available in every country. And I would highly recommend to check ACX's website to see if where it is available. They have said several times that they're trying to expand outward, that they're trying to include more countries as they go. But at the time of this recording, or at the time that you see this, please check with ACX directly, acx.com, and see if it's available in your country. But just know that ACX is not the only audiobook distribution platform out there. It is the one that is connected to Amazon. It is where the audiobooks that you hear on Audible, this is the production side of Audible. This is where authors or rights holders and audiobook narrators or producers come together to make audiobooks for Audible. But it is not the only audiobook distribution platform out there. This is just one of the ones that you hear probably most often. Another question I hear a lot is regarding, and it looks like according to the poll, this is a lot of the questions that you may have, is regarding negotiating and contracts. So we'll, when do I want to do that? I think I'm going to show you that first, and then we'll get into the comments. And I'm sure you guys will have some questions or additional information, opinions, tips, things like that. So we'll get to that in a moment. But first, poll. I want to see where you guys are at, just so you guys we're all on the same page here. So the poll question was, what aspect of ACX is most difficult to understand or do? And most of the time, again, I get questions about negotiating and or contracts or both. And it looks like you guys have the same questions. So we have 21 votes so far. 19% of you said getting paid and invoicing. We can touch on that too. 14% of you said audition file formatting. And then 57% of you said negotiating contracts. And then 10% of you said uploading the audio files, meaning that you have a production in progress and you're uploading audio files when you're done. But it looks like the two things I wanted to touch on today are the things that you guys have questions about the most. So we'll touch on those for sure. So for negotiating and contracts, if you go on to acx.com, if you're signed up and you have a profile there, if you go to your dashboard and you go to the help button, I actually have this up here. I don't think it's sharing that page though. But if you go to your dashboard and you go to the help button, there's like a page that'll pull up and it'll have like, what do you want to know? Right. And you just type in ACX. I'll pull it up here. ACX independent contract agreements or contractor agreements. And it has a page of downloadable, editable PDF contracts that you can use. Now, you don't have to do this if you're doing an audiobook production through ACX. This is included in the terms of use and services through ACX. These will be great to have on hand if you are an audiobook narrator and you perhaps have someone, let's just say you're working on Upwork or Fiverr or somewhere else, and someone approaches you to create an audiobook and you want to have a contract, or if you're doing social media marketing and somebody reaches out to you directly, you want to have a contract on hand that you can edit to include the rights holder's name, the date, the state you're in, all of those fun things. You can find those on ACX. You can edit it. It's a good foundation. It's good bones for a contract, and you can edit it to fit your needs. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but these would be good to have on hand to have a contract in that respect. But they are available on acx.com. Now, there's a lot of great information on ACX, and also ACX has a YouTube channel here on YouTube called ACX University, and I think you can also still find all of those videos on ACX directly. Almost anything that you would want to know about ACX can be found on ACX. It might take a little hunting to find, but you could definitely find it there. As far as negotiating goes, let's just say that you auditioned for a book or you submitted some samples and somebody found you and reached out to you and said, hey, I love your voice. I want to offer you, maybe, I don't know, $200 per finished hour to do this book. What do you think? Or maybe they sent you an offer outright and, based on a sample that they heard through the site. But it's not quite the time period you need, or it's not quite the pay rate you were thinking, or maybe perhaps, something needs to be tweaked within the offer that they send you. You don't have to accept that offer as it sits. You don't have to. Even if you make a boo-boo and you get a little excited and click the accept button before you read the contract, I know many of us have been there. You're all, yeah, done that a time or two. You can still change the terms of the contract after it's in motion, as long as you have reached out to the rights holder who is on the contract, and you have both in writing through ACX, I recommend, have come to an agreement as far as maybe extending the time period, maybe, changing the per finished hour rate, those kinds of things. You can't change the royalty thing. That's kind of set in stone. But if you did like a royalty share plus and you wanted to share the plus or change the plus part, meaning the per finished hour rate as the plus part, if you wanted to change the amount of that, you can. But I also wanted to let you guys know that if you are negotiating a pay for production audiobook, meaning that you're being paid per finished hour, not royalty, anything other than royalty share, because that is collected and done through ACX directly. But if you're doing a per finished hour book, that whatever your rate is, make sure that you have a conversation with the rights holder up front, if possible, about what your rate is. And you guys come to an agreement on your rate and what the final cost will be or projected to be based on the word count, and then collect 50% up front. I highly recommend that you do that. 50% up front, if not at least 25%, whatever that percentage is that you're both comfortable with. I always say 50%. And that one thing, that one move will help save you from potentially being scammed or because scammers don't want to pay anything. They just want to take the work and run, right? So if you're collecting 50% up front, then that covers your time for reading through the book, doing any kind of markups that you're doing, um, perhaps even starting with recording. That covers your time. If that rights holder decides that they no longer want to do the audiobook, they change their mind, maybe they want a different narrator, maybe they want, somebody got sick and they could, whatever it is, but that 50% covers your time and dissuades scammers. So it's a good move to have. But with that pay for production, you have to have an invoicing platform in place, like PayPal, Wave, QuickBooks. However you do your invoicing, you are responsible for invoicing that client. ACX is not. The only time ACX is collecting monies for you is when they're collecting royalties from sales on their site from Audible. ACX does not collect pay for production. That is your responsibility. So this is why you want to have these conversations up front with the rights holder. You want to tell them how you'll be invoicing them, right? So if you use PayPal, for example, and you'll say, okay, well, my rate is $200 per finished hour, which means the entire production will be X amount, but I collect 50% up front. I will invoice you through PayPal for X amount, whatever 50% is, right? Have these conversations up front so you're setting a clear expectation, right, for the client. So there's no surprises, there's no sticker shock, there's none of that stuff. Everybody's on the same page. It makes you look professional, right? So make sure you do those things. Another thing I wanted to touch on is a question that came up recently. I think it was yesterday, the day before, regarding exclusive and non-exclusive contracts for the rights holder. If you're contacted by a rights holder who maybe perhaps has not signed up on ACX yet, they're in the beginning stages of maybe self-publishing a book, and then they want to have all of the formats of the book done at the same time, meaning print, ebook, and audiobook all released on the same day. So maybe they haven't really started with ACX yet, and they haven't signed a contract. The difference between a non-exclusive contract for them and a exclusive contract is that you can only do royalty share through the exclusive contract. And if they go exclusive, then that's when they get the 40% of royalties, and then they split that with you as the narrator. So with a royalty share book on an exclusive contract, you split the 20% and the 20% on every sale of every book, right? But if they go non-exclusive, they only get 25% of royalties, but they're not, they don't have to stay at Audible. They can distribute their audiobook in other places, but then they also can't do royalty share. They can only do pay for production. So those are the major differences between those two. So if a rights holder wants to reach out to you and discuss these options, because you as the professional should know these things, that is the basic difference between the two. So if they're thinking royalty share, they need to go the exclusive route. If they're doing non-exclusive, their only choice is pay for production. And they'll get a smaller royalty for every sale of the book. Was that tangent number one? Or was that like 1.5? I think that was a couple. I wanted to make sure that I touched on those things because those are really questions I get most often. If there's anything I missed or anything, any questions about anything that I just said, please put it in the comments, and we'll do that now since I see there are a heck of a lot of comments. So we'll go over there now. Holy Moses. Dylan's here. Dylan's first in. Hey, Dylan, how you doing? Good morning, all. I would have voted for finding worthwhile titles to audition for if it were a choice. I've started soliciting independent authors to find work I enjoy reading. That I think is the best way to go, because you don't want to limit yourself to just platforms, right? You don't want to put all of your career eggs in one basket or 2 baskets or even 3 baskets. You want to diversify as much as possible, right? Where your income is coming in from, not just like you want to have platforms as just one egg in your basket, and then direct marketing as another egg, right? So on and so forth. So I think that's the best way to go. And then just have like ACX in your back pocket, you know. Miriam is here. Hey, Miriam. Hey, Dylan and all. Good morning. I think my most difficult part is how to go about the social media platforms to advertise the book after it is put on the market. So if you have codes, or if you're like in a royalty share contract agreement and the book is now live and available for sale, there's a couple ways you can go about it. You could either share it on social media to like your friends and family and things. If you have a business profile on any of the social media platforms, you could share it there. If you want to do one better than that, you could go to like headliner.app. That it's more or less for podcasters to make like little snippets of their podcast to, share them on social media to get some traffic to their podcast. Headliner.app, I've talked about this a few times. You could go to that site and create a kind of like a short book trailer using the cover art, the retail sample of whatever you chose as the retail sample. Use that as the audio for it. Make it 30 seconds, 15 seconds, a minute, and then share that on social media so people can see, hear, know where to go to find it. And then all they got to do is click a link within somewhere in that video and then go straight to that title to purchase it. So there's a few ways to go about it. But really just sharing on social media, I think, is probably one of the best ways to do that. But if you're doing royalty share, then it would definitely benefit you to share that for sure. Dwight is here. Hey, Dwight. Good morning, all. I hope you are having a thriving day. Go make some money and have fun doing it. Absolutely. That's pretty much what we do, right? Pretty much what we do. Tim Gleason's here. I would second the option for finding suitable titles. Yeah, it's the last time while I was on ACX this morning, how many titles were there? Let me just take a little peeky-see really quick. So let's refresh this. So I have a lot of filters on, but it looks like there are 1,400 titles available right now. So I can't necessarily say that there aren't any, but there are a lot more people self-publishing these days because it's easy to do. It's that, that barrier to entry to find publisher and stuff like that. All of that stuff is pretty much gone now. There's a lot of different ways to publish a book. And so, what you consider to be suitable might be just perfect for somebody else. So, for anybody watching, it's not like there's, go and check it out for yourself is what I'm saying. Dwight says, I find getting meaningful and effective contracts to be a challenge. So many things to get and be prepared for, and also include the right amounts of do's and don'ts in said contract. You mean as far as like one of those independent contractor contracts or through ACX themselves? Because again, if there's, I think what happens when a rights holder sends you an offer to produce an audiobook, it's sort of a template for them, and they may not know or understand how long an audiobook actually takes to produce. So you may see something like, maybe you were offered a 50,000 word book to produce, and then they give you 10 days to produce it. You're not like beholden to that. You can say, hey, a book this size may take a little bit longer than 10 days to do. And also I have maybe another one in queue. I have 2 other ones that I'm finishing up. I can start on this on X day, or perhaps maybe I need 30 days to complete this book. If that works for your timeline, then great, I'll accept this offer now. But don't kill yourself and burn yourself out trying to do that because you think that's the only option. You can negotiate anything on that contract before or even after, unless it's royalty share or, some things you can't change. But you can negotiate most everything on that contract before or even after, as long as both of you have agreed to the new terms in writing on ACX. So if there's ever an issue, ACX can get involved and go, okay, well, you guys both agreed to, extending it out this many days, right? So don't let the contract scare you. If there's something on there that needs to be changed, you can ask for it to be changed. Caesar says, oh, hi. Oh, hi, Caesar. I've only taken the first baby step in my ACX journey, so ahead of all the other things I need to do, including getting a US tax ID, I've opened an ACX account and use it to peruse auditions. Well, good for you, Caesar. And again, that's not the only distributor out there. That's only just one. That's only one. Pamela's here. Hey, Pam, how you doing? How you doing, Pam? Caesar says, with the limitations imposed by virtue of living in an archipelago, 8,000 miles from the U.S. West Coast, I may consider contacting authors directly for work. And I think that's a great approach, too. That's a great approach, too. Dwight says, way to go, Caesar. I'm proud of you. Absolutely. Dwight says, hi, Pam and Dylan and Tim and Miriam, and, of course, Caesar. Caesar says, but in my less than a year of being in VO, I think I've pretty much nailed all the technical aspects of VO. I think you have. Nailed them to the floor. Processing, so on that front, I'm spot on and 100% of the way there. Good. Caesar says, that said, hello, Angelo. Hello, Dwight. Hello, everyone. I can't believe it took this long, but here we are. I'll be on the audiobook road along with some of the best people I've known. That's awesome. Sean says, I like warm hugs. Me too. Olaf. Oslet Audio. I don't know why my mouse is my trackball's making so much noise. If you can hear it. Oslet Audio is here. Hello, Om here from Tolga, heading to bed, but just saying hi on the way out. Can't wait to catch up on the vid later on. Well, if you're watching this later on, hello, Om. Dwight says, sleep well, Oz. Thanks for stopping by before you headed off to beddy bye time. Sleepy land. Caesar says, good night, Oslet Audio. I know it's 2 a.m. for you. Watch the replay for the good stuff. Yes, Team Replay. And if you are watching on Team Replay, please consider subscribing and liking this video. I really appreciate it. It helps my algorithm to find all the people looking for this information. Just like I was a few years ago, trying to figure all this stuff out. Oslet says, or Om says, as ACX currently deems me unfit to use it in my country, I would love to try other platforms, Ahab, others, open to any others that people recommend. A lot of other platforms are more search user friendly for authors than they are for narrators. ACX is one of the few where you can actually audition and be proactive about being found. Some of the other ones are more or less you're just kind of sitting on a roster until somebody is looking for somebody, and then they find your demo and then reach out to you directly. There's Ahab. I mean, there's some of the bigger ones also, like there's like Scholastic and some of the other ones, but you need to get on their roster, which could take some time. They want to see some credible titles under your belt before you do that. But there's Findaway Voices, which I'm not too sure about anymore because of the whole AI thing there. But I think your best bet right now, and for me, is direct marketing. Make yourself visible on social media. Start reaching out to, become part of networking groups like the APA. Join groups and even like Facebook groups of authors and things like that, and contribute meaningfully. Don't just sit there and lurk and then attack people when they speak. Join groups and contribute, as the narrator's perspective or as a book reader in general. There's a lot of ways to approach this using social media to find authors or rights holders directly. And then at some point, apply to be on the rosters of some of these bigger publishers. Eric is here. Hey, Eric. Good morning, friends. Just wanted to say have a great day. Absolutely. Says, cheers, Dwight. My cup of tea says, howdy, y'all. Howdy, my cup of tea. Says, Anya Caesar, many thanks. Paximus is here. Hey, Paximus. How you doing, buddy? Good morning, Angela. How are you today? I am Fabu. I'm working on doing read alouds now as a way for me to get better at my audiobook narration skills. I've done Harry Potter and Series of Unfortunate Events. That is awesome. Reading out loud and Harry Potter to boot. Are you doing all the voices? Colette says, good morning, everyone. Colette, good morning to you. Matthew White. Hi, Angela. Hi, Matthew. How you doing? Space Kid and Luna says, good morning, all. This is Brian Mitchell. You have a different username like every time you join, it seems. My kids are messing with my profile again. Naturally. Sega Old School says, I just want to get my foot in the door, but I'm shy with my voice. Is there anywhere that someone coaches you as you record? I would say that what you're feeling, Sega, is completely normal and natural. I don't know many. I've met hundreds of voice actors and aspiring voice actors at this point, and there's maybe I can count maybe on one hand the number of people that were completely comfortable with their voice when they first started out, myself included. I still don't think, my voice is all that, but look how far I've come with just using it as it is, right? We are our own worst critics. And if you can first get over the fact that your voice sounds so much different to you outside of your head than in your head while you're talking, it just kind of like freaks you out and it's kind of cringy. You get used to it, right? But it is something that you need to get over. It is something that you need to get past in order to do this, because this industry, you need your voice. That's what you're using. That's your instrument. That is your skill. It's your moneymaker. So you have to get past it. And if you don't think that you can, then it might not be the right move for you. But I encourage you to try and to fight past it and to give it a try. Sega. Completely normal. I think we've all been there. Matthew says, thanks for all the help. I've been auditioning like crazy, and I'm in the process of my first book contract. It's only royalty, but I am excited to be starting this process. That's awesome. Good for you. Also, I just remembered, Sega, I'm so sorry. I forgot to answer your second question about someone coaches you as you record. I just got off track. I went, oh, shiny thing. For you, there's a few different ways to go about it. You could I highly recommend everybody, regardless, join some kind of group, community, mastermind, a circle of friends. Join a Facebook group that is nothing but voiceover and audiobooks. Join several. Become part of the community. Make friends. Because that not only helps with networking, but you'll learn so much just by lurking. And then if you join like masterminds or like academies or workshop groups like mine, the Platinum Group, you can meet a lot of other people on so many different levels of skill and experience that all care about your success and lifting you up when you need it, and do live coaching with each other, or go find a coach or a mentor and then have them work with you one-on-one to get past any kind of hangups or issues, audio issues, narration issues, anything like that. But at the very least, join a group, find a community, find your tribe, and that in and of itself will help you tremendously with your confidence. But if you need help with the actual like live direction, then joining like a mastermind group where you can read in front of other people and get live constructive feedback, or find a coach or a mentor to help you with that. Those are the things that I think you should do. I think everybody should do at some point. Cozy Review says, do you make the 50% non-refundable? I would. I definitely would. Because again, that covers your time. If you think about it this way, if you're a professional audiobook narrator and you have perhaps 5 books in queue and you took this one on, right? It sort of holds their place in line. It holds the time that you're going to spend reading through the book, developing the characters, right? That is time that you will not get back and perhaps miss out on another book opportunity because of this book. So I would definitely say it in that respect. If you look at it that way, it should definitely be non-refundable, right? Absolutely. Greenwood Audio Creation says, is there one invoice system that you like more, easier to use, faster, simpler, whatever than others? I've always used PayPal Business. I've never had any issues with it. And it's the platform that is accepted as for payment on most, if not all, platforms that I am currently on. So it just makes it easy that all my money comes in and goes out of one place, right? It's easy to manage. And PayPal Business, they have invoicing, sales trackers. I mean, there's all kinds of tools and functionalities in there that are great for running a business. So I've always used PayPal. But there are, I think we did a video on this not too long ago, or a live chat on this. Oh, maybe it was last year. I don't remember. Time flies. But we did talk about, invoicing systems. But I think there was not just PayPal, but there was Payoneer, there was Wave.com. There's QuickBooks, of course. And I know I'm forgetting a couple, but there is a handful of them. Bear says, hello, my favorite people. Hello to you, my friend. Masonry Construction. Angela, you rarely do interviews here, but have you considered having an expert or two talk about how simple it would be for the writers in our group to create their own book, ebook, audio on Amazon? You're right. I've only done a couple of interviews here because to tell you the truth, I haven't got a whole lot of positive feedback on it. But I would definitely love to do more. But as far as writers in our group to make their own ebooks and audio on, that's a good point. I can actually think of a couple of people that I might reach out to do that. I'll have to think on that. Thank you for that. I'll have to look into that. Bear says, or Donnie says, the book I produced, Royalty Share, has stalled. It looks like the author is walking away from ACX. So I am marking this up as a learning experience and I'm moving on. Well, hopefully you haven't spent a whole lot of time on it yet. But I'm glad that you're looking at it that way because that's exactly what it is. We don't look at these things, and not just for you, Donnie, but for anybody watching, we don't look at these things as failures or, hiccups or obstacles or anything to be sad about. This was a learning opportunity, right? You've experienced it. Now we can move forward, right? We know what this looks like. We know how to handle it. And it just makes your skin a little thicker, a little tougher, right? So look at it as a learning opportunity and not as something negative. If you can look at everything through a positive lens versus a negative lens, trust me, this will be a lot easier and you'll go much farther in any business that you have. You have to try to look at everything in a positive lens, in a positive frame. Trust me. Oh, we got a super chat. Hold on. I'm a scrolling. Hold on. Sean Lester, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. Let's say you have 6-hour book contract. On average, how much time do you expect from getting the contract to delivery of the final product? I have to say it's going to depend on your workload. And if you have a lot of other books in queue, I would say in that respect, be honest with yourself. If you have other books that you need to finish before you even start this 6-hour book, 6 finished hour, I'm assuming, book, then be honest with the rights holder up front. I have, a few others in queue. I can start on your book on X date and it's going to take me this long. But as far as from contract to delivery, if that's the only book that I have to work on, I would say roughly 64,000 word book is probably what that would equate to, just rough math. That would probably take me about 45 days to do. 30, 45 days. And again, this number is going to be variable depending on how much availability you have to work on a book. I remember when I was employed full time and doing this on the side in the very beginning, I only had, a fraction of the hours that I do now to get work done. So I really had to be careful on how I approach these things. But as you go along, just generally speaking, if you're actively auditioning for audiobooks, or perhaps if you're reading out loud, if you're practicing doing these things, you'll sort of have an idea of how long it takes you to narrate, a certain length of an audio file. You'll have an idea of how long it takes you to edit, to, format it, to master it. And then using that, you can kind of get an idea of how long these things are going to take you to do. But I would say 30 to 45 days is pretty typical for a book this size. And then even within that time frame, if you get sick for a couple days, if you can, it gives you maybe a couple extra days to take a break if you need to, right? Because what if that book has really, difficult characters to sustain, and you need to rest your voice for a day or two. Or maybe you fly right through it and you get it done in 20 days, deliver it early and be a hero, right? But I would ask for a little bit more than what you actually need, and then deliver early when you can. But that extra couple of days buffer that you give yourself will give you the stress-free time to take a break, to relax, to rest the instrument, right? Those things are important to think about and to add. Great question. Thank you for that, Sean. I appreciate you. Where did I leave off? Here we go. Donnie says, I was just elbow deep in a sewer line. I can hug you all. We'll pass. Maybe next time. We'll catch you next time. Caesar says, well, that's unfortunate, but hey, I'm betting they're not the only author in existence. That's exactly right. Joy says, hello, everyone, from sunny Southfield, Michigan, and I'm getting ready to upload samples into ACX. The contracts and invoicing parts are still a bit intimidating and confusing for me. Well, I'm hoping that everything that I've talked about so far, because that's pretty much the bulk of today's conversation so far, was contracts and invoicing. So I'm hoping that something in there is, those questions are gone at this point. But if you still have something maybe specific that you want to know about that I can answer directly for you right now, then please ask it. Donnie says to Caesar, you are correct. I see dozens and dozens I want to audition for, waiting on my new computer. That's usually how it goes. It's usually how it goes. Patricia Andrea says, I would love an ACX workflow and organization tutorial. A workflow and organization tutorial. That's actually a good point. Maybe I can make a standalone video for that. ACX workflow and organization. That's actually a great one. And I'll tell you right now that, of course, that's going to vary how you do things or when you do things. It's going to vary based on your availability and your schedule and things like that. But basically, once you have a contract started, you want to read the book. You want to allow yourself some time to read the book. So you have an idea of what the plot is, who the characters are, make some notes, right? If it's fiction and there's, several different characters in it, you want to note, do they have accents? What do they sound like? Where are they from? What kind of people are they? And then build some archetype sort of character voices for them. Reach out to the rights holder if you have to. Write down questions for the rights holder and then reach out to the rights holder as you're going through the reading to ask questions, clarify, get pronunciation tips. Maybe it's a fantasy and there's a bunch of made up names and places that you need to make sure that you're pronouncing correctly. And then after you have all of that situated, then you start with a recording process. And then from there, it's just record, edit, format, and master, and then upload the files. And then you can upload the files to ACX as you finish them if you want, or all at once. It doesn't really matter which way you go because the rights holder can't view them until you like lock it, until you send it over to them. So I just upload them all at once. That way if they have any revisions, I get the revisions all at once, and then I can fix them all at once and then send them back all at once. That way it's not like I don't forget anything. Nothing sort of gets lost, along the way. And that way my tone also in any kind of fixes I need to do stays consistent along the way. I'm doing it all in one sitting. If that makes any kind of sense. But that's a great idea for a topic for sure. Donnie says, Angela, is Fiverr the only way to get the YouTube gigs? I love the audiobooks there. I wouldn't think so. I think, again, Fiverr is just one freelance marketplace platform. Upwork, I've also seen a lot of YouTube narration work on Upwork. I'm sure there's probably a handful of them on a different, there's also freelancer.com. There's a handful of them. And you could also directly reach out to YouTubers themselves. If there's somebody that you enjoy watching, but perhaps they're using an AI voice or something, and you're just like, man, if this voice just wasn't there, or maybe you don't listen to the voice and you just read the captions because you can't stand it. I do. Then you can reach out to that creator and say, hey, I love your channel, but would you consider using a voice actor to read these instead of AI? And then negotiate like a volume-based price point, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about that, not just, one platform. Think of it as a business owner, not as a, bring me gigs kind of a thing. Go get it. Don't sit back and wait for it to come to you. Paxima says, in regards to the read alouds, I'm not doing the voices because I am not good at accents, but I'm working on it. I'm working on the energy and inflections with each character without accents at the moment. Yet character voices, you really want to focus on who the character is, what their attitudes are, how they're feeling, who they are, their personalities, right? If they remind you of somebody in a movie or a TV show, then that character can be the basis for this character. Right? You can just become that character and then, make subtle tweaks if you have to. But it's not so much about the voice per se. I mean, ultimately, it's going to be up to the rights holder and what they want for their book. But I think character voices is more, Scott Brick does this beautifully. If anybody has listened to Scott Brick, Jurassic Park, go listen to it. Perfect demonstration of this. It's more about the character's attitude and how they present themselves. A cranky teenager is going to have a whole different attitude and persona than, somebody else, any other character. I'm hitting the brakes on that tangent right now, but it's more about personality than the voice per se. Caesar says, I'm shy with my voice too. I said before being struck by lightning for being an ignominious liar only seconds later. Yeah, you have one of the most interesting and compelling purring voices I have ever heard, Caesar. Purr. That's right. He purrs when he talks. Donnie says, as the former king of hating my voice, it will get better. I even got a book deal and thought the author was drunk. It gets better. My cup of tea says, last Thursday's group was a boon and boost to confidence. It was my first, but had to jump into a community and get started somewhere. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you did because, again, joining a group of any kind and then being active in it, and if you can join a group where you read for each other like we do in my platinum group, confidence boost. Honestly, and then you can hear different perspectives of your read. And then, they're so helpful, not only to further your career, and also in that confidence boost. That's everything. Rustic Hillbilly says, good morning, all. Good morning, Rustic Hillbilly. How are you? Caesar says, to my cup of tea, oh, hey, which one were you? I love Wheel of Emotions. It's like my favorite activity, that and roulette reads. Wheel of Emotions is always fun. We'll have to figure out new ways to evolve it to make it more and more fun. But I like Wheel of Emotions too. Donnie says, "Oh, I completed the book." Oh. Colette says, "Is there a way to protect yourself from an RH who walks away from ACX and moves to another platform?" Contract? I mean, I guess it's going to depend on how they're paying you. If it's royalty share, then they're beholden to the ACX contract, which is 7 years. Or if it's pay for production, all you could do is have in your contract that you have that 50% non-refundable fee up front. And if they walk away, you at least have that 50%. You know what I mean? It's really going to depend on the circumstance. But if you're looking for something legal wise, I would definitely reach out to a lawyer or an attorney. But I don't have that kind of advice, but it's going to depend on the situation, Colette. Dylan says, "Gah, stupid work took me away for a bit. I'll have to catch the replay to see what I missed." Question: how does one achieve Audible approved producer status? I looked into that a while ago. I think you have to apply. And to apply, the last time I looked, don't quote me on it, but if you go to ACX and maybe punch it in the help button, I could probably do that right now, can't I? But I think you have to have at least 20 titles under your belt or something like that. And then maybe a certain rating or review status in Audible. I'm sure there's some different parameters. I looked into it a while ago, but I'm sure it's changed. Let me see if I can look that up really quick. Let's go up to the little search button. Audible approved. What is an Audible? Here we go. How do I become an Audible approved producer? Let's do that really quick. Let's go to here we go. Present. It helps if you it won't let me present a different. All right, let's try it this way. Hold on, guys. Share screen. How to become an here we go. Okay, so it says, how do I become an Audible approved producer? So ACX reviews each producer for their overall body of work and quality of said work. We look at the entire spectrum of what it means to be an Audible approved producer, which includes indicators like overall production quality, performance skills, customer reviews, commitment to production deadlines, as well as whether you've recently had any audio rejections by QA. We consider these indicators because an Audible approved producer not only guarantees a quality performance and production, but also provides a high quality experience for authors and rights holders. If we determine a producer meets the requirements of an Audible approved producer, AAP, we will contact you by email. We will also include a badge on your profile to be searchable by authors and rights holders seeking the highest quality production. I believe that you need to apply for that. I'm not sure where. Again, I looked at this maybe a year or more ago, but I never really got any further than that. I was just curious as to what it was. But it would definitely be something that I think would, help you to be seen by more people and maybe get offers and contracts faster. I would think if you had that badge, for sure. Wouldn't hurt. I don't know how long it takes or anything like that. But something to definitely look into, for sure. Glenn York says, super late to the live today, but you brought donuts. So you are fine. You are forgiven. Wanted to thank you for all the help so far. I accepted my first contract on ACX, and if all goes well, I have my first credit soon. Good for you. Good for you. Congratulations. My cup of tea says to Caesar, I'm John Crocker. You, my friend, have a fantastic voice also. It was a pleasure to meet with you all virtually. Colette says, great idea. Patricia, absolutely. The tutorial. Caesar says to John, holy shamoly, you have a voice like a velvet-covered brick soaked in a thin layer of lemon juice. Is that a good thing? That doesn't sound very pleasant. Velvet-covered, yes, for sure. We need to hear more of you. Please join us next Thursday. It'll be fun. Dylan says, "Oh yeah, John, I remember that voice. He has a very memorable voice, John. Will do my best to." Eric Chapman says, "When you first started, how many hours roughly did it take to make, let's say, a 6-hour finished book? I know it may be different, but I just wanted to see if it's plausible." Um, as far as work hours, oh gosh, my very first book was a little over. It was maybe 9.6 hours. It was a it was a big one. It wasn't ideal, the ideal situation for my first book, but in that book, I was able to do it in 30 days. But I really, because that was what the contract was for, because I didn't know what I knew. I didn't know what I needed to know. And I would sit in here for hours on weekends, narrating and editing, banging my head up against a wall, trying to get, the formatting standards. I spent a lot of time in here. That was 6 years ago. So it's a little foggy at this point. But I would say, a couple hours after work, every night. I spent the bulk of weekends in here trying to get it all done. So, but 30 days, I was able to get it done. But knowing what I know now, I would definitely give myself more time, not only for the breaks, but especially in the beginning when you're still learning how to do everything. You want to give yourself some extra time, right? If you have other books in queue, things like that, right? More time is understandable. But before I was even on ACX, and this helped me considerably with understanding how much time it takes to do these things. And not only that, but to get into the practice of editing, formatting, reaching certain file format standards, was joining LibriVox.org. That is where you can volunteer to narrate titles in the public domain. It's completely free. There's no money exchange involved. You're completely just volunteering your time to read a chapter, a section, a book in its entirety. You can choose the title that you want to narrate, and you do that for free. There's not a whole lot of time constraints or anything like that, right? There's no pressure, but it's practice and it's building that confidence in doing that. And that helped me out tremendously before I jumped on to ACX. Donnie says, "Oh, and about time to produce my first book was 34,000 words and 3 to 5 hours. I took 29 days to complete, and that was working on it every day. My 9 to 5 job keeps me away." Yeah, definitely, especially in the beginning, give yourself more time than you need, right? It sounds like a long time, but it's typical. Audiobooks are not a sprint at all. They take time, and you want to take the time to do that job well. Right? So take the time you need. Space Kid Luna says, Brian says to Patricia, "Yes, a workflow. Why do I keep saying that? Workflow tutorial. I'm working on revising templates to send clients and have a more professional experience for my clients." That's awesome. There's one thing that you could consider building for your clients is, and I think I want to say I've seen tutorials on this on YouTube, but it's building like what they call a welcome packet for a rights holder. And that's going to include a questionnaire, probably in PDF or Word format, that's got questions about, characters, like standard questions. Are there anything, all of the things that I tell you guys to ask, you can put those in a document and send that off to the client in a zip file. Questionnaire about characters. You could do a copy of the contract. I mean, there's a whole thing you can do for your clients that builds trust because you're setting expectations up front, right? Good things. Joy says, "With audiobooks, which is the best way?" I'm sorry, my light is freaking out again. I probably need a new ring light. "With audiobooks, which is the best way I should get paid by the client? Paid per finished hour, split royalties, or hybrid?" It's going to depend on you. It's going to depend on what you prefer. None of those ways is bad. None of those ways is really preferred. There's different nuances to how each one of them works. And we've talked about this a few times in our group, Joy. But per finished hour means that you just get paid, 50% up front and then 50% at the end of when the audiobook is complete. No royalties at all. And then royalty share is when you get 20% of every sale of every audiobook sold for the next 7 years. And then Royalty Share Plus is a little bit of both, right? The hybrid she mentioned, that's Royalty Share Plus. It's usually a smaller pay for production or per finished hour rate and royalties for the next 7 years. So let's just say that your per finished hour rate is $200 per finished hour, right? As your normal standard rate. A Royalty Share Plus means that maybe you would offer them a $100 per finished hour rate plus royalties going forward, or $75 per finished hour plus royalties going forward, right? It's usually a smaller dollar amount upfront rate. Donnie says, I just heard you whisper, just do it. You young lady are the queen and we love you. Just do it. There you go. There's my whisper. I'm just glad to help, Donnie. Greenwood Audio Creation says, I look so yellow right now. Why is my light's making me mad? One thing that I heard about audiobooks that I thought, that's just silly. And then listened to a book as a voice actor and went, holy crap, that's what he's doing. Yeah. Yeah. Space Kid Luna says, to Glenn York, congrats. Greenwood Audio Creation says, that's do an impression of the character. Like if he's kind of an Indiana Jones, do that. Then I heard it in a very popular audiobook. Wild. Shelly D says, hi, I just started doing voiceover. Welcome to the family. It is literally my first week. Welcome, welcome. Do you have any advice on how to improve our audiobook voice for those of us who don't have the funds to get coaching yet? I would say practice, practice, practice. Watch a lot of tutorials. It's the same thing that I did. Do the LibriVox thing. Practice with that, with your narration skills. But I do highly recommend still, I mean, most of these are free to join Facebook groups and to lurk there, ask questions. It is exactly this reason why I keep my Platinum group membership so low. It's only $20 a month. That's exactly why, because I don't want there to be a barrier to entry. I mean, most other masterminds you'll find are, you know, you can join them if you pay a couple $100 for this course or that course, or you have to pay, I don't even know, $80, $100 a month for all of these classes and things. And then you can be part of it. But I don't do any of that. I try to keep it as simple as possible, but I don't want there to be a barrier to entry or any kind of like major hurdle for someone to get the help and practice and support and community. So that's why I keep my Platinum membership rate so low. I have to charge something because there's a lot of overhead involved with Zoom and things. I don't want to get into technicals and bore you guys to death, but I would definitely at the very least join Facebook groups and get into the community and meet some people and ask questions. Everyone's extending a warm, welcoming hand. All you got to do is reach out and take it. And people are very willing to help you to get started. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Cindy, YouTube is your very best friend. And YouTube is phenomenal. There's nothing you can't find on YouTube. Watch lots of videos of people using their natural accent, Brit or French or Russian. Space Kid says, attitude is probably king for character creation. It dictates the rhythm and some of the pitch of the character. There are other ways to bring separation to characters as well. For sure. Shelley says, I live in Germany and ACX is not available here, sadly. Right? But it is only one platform. There are many other ways to find audiobook work, as we've discussed throughout this video today. Space Kid says the books have to be like 6 hours in length as well. Greenwood says, okay, so now I want to hear the sample from her first book, Chance. What is its name? What is its name? No. No. Space Kid says, I'm jealous about your month book experience. Oh, because it only took me 30 days? Yeah, I would not recommend that. It was not easy. I would not be jealous about that. I was a mess. I forgot what the sun looked like and felt like. I forgot what my son and my partner looked like. I didn't eat. I definitely would not recommend that time period for almost 100,000 word book. A cup of tea says, welcome, Shelley. You're in good company. Absolutely. Donnie says to Shell, a lot of drinking helps. He means tea. Green tea, throat coat tea, warm, soothing tea. Or not. Joy says to Shelley, welcome. Absolutely. Colette says, welcome to the fam. Depability says German here. There's a tutorial how to get on ACX. Is there? Interesting. Shelley says, thank you. I just joined LibriVox. That's awesome. Yeah, that is one of the biggest helps. I'm so thankful that I did that. And for those of you wondering, I actually have a little banner for it. This is how it's spelled: LibriVox.org. And they're probably going to roll their eyes and goes, oh, great, here come 1,000 more narrators. Thanks, Ange. No, but it's great because these are all books in the public domain. So, people that are, that cannot see, right? They can hear an audiobook. They can hear the classics. It's a great thing to do. Not only for you, for the learning narrator, but for the people that are listening as well. And then Donnie says 20-hour straight marathons is not fun. No. And I would not recommend it at all. Leslie says, when did you delete your first samples after you had much better ones? That was pretty much when I deleted them, is when I had much better ones. When you're on ACX, as soon as you post a sample, it's at the top of the search. And then throughout the day, throughout the hour, throughout the week, your sample that you posted is slowly going to move down that search page with everybody else posting their samples on top of you. So you'll slowly end up being on page 2, then page 3, then page 4, right? So what you want to do is to have new, fresh samples, or even your old ones, recycle them, take them down, put them back up. So you're constantly at the top of that search list. So if you think about it as if an author is not using any filters, perhaps using them even sparingly, that they want, female or male, they want this accent or this accent, your sample is going to be towards the top, right? It's the same idea as like if you shopping for something on Amazon, you type in the words for something that you want, right? You tell them, okay, I want Prime. I want something that's got a 4-star rating or better, and then go. And then you've got like 10 pages of results. You're probably going to find what you're looking for within the first page, maybe the second page, but it's highly unlikely that you're going to be, on to page 7, page 8. You're probably going to find what you want, or something that works, that's suitable within the first 2 pages. It's the same ideology. So you want to keep your samples towards the top by constantly refreshing or recycling, right? Whatever interval you decide, whether it's every other day, every week, every month, whatever interval you decide, a couple times a week, recycle, stay at the top. And then as soon as you you feel more confident, as soon as your samples start sounding better to you, then replace them, because you're taking them down anyway. So you might as well just put up the new, better ones. It works. Because again, remember, 40% of audiobooks or contracts, jobs, are made through samples. 40%. And then 60% auditions. And then remember, also use your auditions as samples. It's a pretty good chunk. So don't overlook posting samples. Masonry Construction says to Shelley, I think with LibriVox, you can do just a single chapter of a book if you prefer. Don't get overwhelmed. Yeah, you like if it's a poetry book, you could do like a section, a couple of pages. They'll break books down even, and go, here, do you want this chapter, or do you want this chapter, or do you want this book, right? There's all kinds of different options as far as length, right? So just choose something small if you want to start small. If you really want to challenge yourself and see what you're really made of, then do an entire chapter, or a couple of chapters, but do it that way. Space Kid says, LibriVox drove me to be an Audible customer. Some of those recordings are really hard to listen to, but it's good to have a safe place to start. Leslie says, yay, deleting the old as soon as possible. Space Kid says, put up lots of samples at a time so you fill up the ACX sample page. I prefer the trickle method, but I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying there's, as always with everything else, there's several ways to go about this. Whichever way you want to do this, that's the way to do it. It's just, I share with you some of the things to keep in mind while you're building your plan and strategizing to get to where you want to be, to that place you call there, right? That place of success that's for you. You could either do the trickle method, like I said, post maybe a couple on Monday and then a couple on Wednesday and then take them all down on Friday and put them back up with a new one. However you want to do it, there's no wrong way to do it. Masonry Construction says, I'll definitely try not to. Space Kid says, all 3 of my books have come from samples. There you go. The Silencer says, are you using an MKH 416? Yes, this is a Sennheiser 416. Penitent Passer says, regarding LibriVox, it is a great way to start and to polish your editing skills. Absolutely. And for me, it was for learning how to properly format. That's what it was for me. But don't expect detailed performance feedback. Right. And you can't really expect that from auditions. The only time that you're probably going to get any kind of feedback is when an author listens through their audiobook production and then gives you feedback because they're listening for, things that perhaps they need revised, right? Don't expect a whole lot of feedback on your performance or editing skills or anything like that from auditions. The rights holders are not obligated to give you feedback. You're either the voice or you're not, right? So same thing with LibriVox. They might not give you any kind of feedback. Joy says, even if it's a chapter at a time, LibriVox is a great way to get samples under your belt if you're first starting out. Absolutely. Absolutely. A practice confidence. That confidence is everything, for sure. All right, you guys, I have got to get going today. Tonight is belt testing. My son's going for his blue belt in Taekwondo tonight, so wish us luck. And I'll keep you guys posted on that. But hence the blue nails. Is getting into the spirit for the blue belt. But I'll see you guys all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. If there's anything that you would like for us to discuss here as a group in the chat, please put it in the comments down below. It might be something we talk about in the future. But until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.